No generation has entered the world with more powerful tools or greater opportunities than you. We are all standing at the same starting line. This is your moment to help shape what comes next. So run, don't walk. So the thing is, when you want to build something great, it's not easy to do. And when you're doing something that's not easy to do, you're not always enjoying it. I don't love every day of my job. I don't think every day brings me joy, nor does joy have to be the definition of a good day. And every day I'm not happy. Every year I'm not happy about the company. But I love the company every single second. And so I think that what people misunderstand is somehow the best jobs are the one that brings you happiness all the time. I don't think that that's right. You have to suffer. You have to struggle. You have to endeavor. You have to do those hard things and work through it in order to really appreciate what you've done. And there are no such thing that are great that was easy to do. And so by definition, I would say, therefore, I wish upon you greatness, which by my way of saying it, I wish upon you plenty of pain and suffering. And so my heart is in the work. So put your heart in the work. Build something worthy of your education, your potential, and the people who believed in you long before the world did.
And a lot of people say, find something you love. I don't know about that. I guess I've fallen in love in many things that I do. I loved it when I was a dishwasher. I loved it when I was a busboy. I loved it when I was delivering papers. I loved it when I was waiting tables. I've loved every single job that I've ever had. And I loved every single day at NVIDIA that I've ever had. And I just learned to love what I'm doing. And so I guess it's probably harder to find something that you love, but it's easier to fall in love with what you're doing. And once you fall in love with what you're doing, because you just desperately want to do a good job at it, it's easier to do it well and do it hard.
For 33 years, NVIDIA had reinvented itself over and over again, each time asking, how hard can it be? And each time learning, it's harder than we thought. But through those experiences, we learned never to see failure as the opposite of success. Each failure is just another learning moment, a humility moment, a character strengthening moment. The resilience forged through setbacks is what gives you the strength to go again.
When you're building a company and building a product, skill matters. Intellect matters. Training matters. But it's not enough. The part of it that is important to realize about building companies is that it's a challenging and painful and oftentimes extraordinarily scary thing to do. And so unless you have passion, unless you really love the process of building the company and what you're trying to do, it's going to be incredibly challenging. And so what I would leave you with is when you're building a company, if you decide to build a company, you have to ask yourself, what is the purpose that you're building the company for? Is it that you would like to build a company so that you can sell it, make a fortune? Is it that you would like to build a company so you can take it public? You're just a serial entrepreneur. You want to build something, let somebody else run it, build something, sell it. Whatever your reason is, be honest to yourself. It turns out that in my case, I just love the process of building things, and I love being part of something. Being part of NVIDIA and being part of a people and being part of a cause that is that's inspiring to me keeps me vibrant, and it's something that I'm willing to do for a very long period of time.
I was 16 when I went to college, and when I met my wife, I was 17. She was 19. And so I was the youngest kid in school, in class. There were 250 students and 3 girls. And I was the only student that looked like a child, and they were all children.
So you learned how to be competitive at that time.
No, you have to learn how to, have a good pickup line. And so I walked up to her and I said to her, I know I looked like a child, and therefore I am certain that her first impression of me is that I'm pretty smart. It's got to be that, otherwise, And so I knew that her first impression of me would be that I'm smart. And so I walked up to her and I said, "Do you want to see my homework?" And then I made her a promise. I said, if you do homework with me every Sunday, I promise you will get straight A's. Okay? And as a result, I had a date every Sunday. And I made her do homework all day. I was with her the whole day. And then just to make sure that eventually she marries me, I told her that by the time I'm 30, I just wanted you to know I'm only 20 right now. But by the time I'm 30, I'm going to be a CEO. I have no idea what I was talking about. And then we got married.
Yeah.
And so maybe that's all the advice I'm going to give all the entrepreneurs. That's it.
Building companies is hard. There's nothing easy about it. There's a lot of pain and suffering. There's a lot of hard work. If it was easy, everybody would do it. And the truth about all companies, big or small, ours or others, in technology, you're always dying. And the reason for that is because somebody's always trying to leapfrog you, so you're always dying. You're always on the way of going out of business. And if you don't internalize that sensibility, if you don't internalize that belief, you will go out of business. And so I started at Denny's, as you guys know, and NVIDIA was built out of very unlikely odds, and it took us a long time to be here. I mean, we're a 30-year-old company, and when NVIDIA first founded, the PC, Windows 95 hadn't come out, 1993, and that was the first usable PC. We didn't have email, and so there were no such thing as laptops or smartphones. None of that stuff existed, and so you could just imagine the world that we were started in and the world we are. We didn't have LCD; everything was CRTs, and so the world was very, very different. CD-ROMs didn't exist. I mean, just to put it in perspective, all this stuff that was the era we were founded in, and it took this long for our company to be recognized as having reinvented computing for the first time in 60 years. Growing fast is all about people. Obviously, companies is all about people. And if the right system's in place, you're surrounded by amazing people like I am, and the company has craft, has skills. It doesn't really matter whether you ship $100 billion or $200 billion.
You can succeed in doing something, inventing a future, even if you were not informed about it at all. And it's kind of my attitude about everything now. When somebody tells me about something and I've never heard of it before, or if I've heard of it, don't understand how it works at all, my first thought is always, how hard can it be? And it's probably just a textbook away. You're probably one archive paper away from figuring this out. And so I spent a lot of time reading archive papers, and it's true. It's true. You can. Now, of course, you can't learn how somebody else does something and do it exactly the same way and hope to have a different outcome. But you could learn how something can be done, and then go back to first principles and ask yourself, given the conditions today, given my motivation, given the instruments, the tools, given how things have changed, how would I redo this? How would I reinvent this whole thing? How would I design it? How would I build a car today? Would I build it incrementally from 1950s and 1900s? How would I build a computer today?
How would I write software today? Does it make sense? And so I go back to first principles all the time, even in the company today, and just reset ourselves. Because the world has changed. And the way we wrote software in the past was monolithic, and it's designed for supercomputers, but now it's disaggregated, it's, so on and so forth. And how we think about software today, how we think about computers today, how we think, just always cause your company, always cause yourself to go back to first principles, and it creates lots and lots of opportunities. One of my great advantages is that I have very low expectations. and I mean that. Most of the Stanford graduates have very high expectations. And you deserve to have high expectations because you came from a great school. You were very successful, you're at top of your class, obviously you were able to pay for tuition, and then you're graduating from one of the finest institutions on the planet. You're surrounded by other kids that are just incredible. You naturally have very high expectations. People with very high expectations have very low resilience. And unfortunately, resilience matters in success. I don't know how to teach it to you except for I hope suffering happens to you. And I was fortunate that I grew up with my parents providing a condition for us to be successful on the one hand, but there were plenty of opportunities for setbacks and suffering. And to this day, I use the phrase pain and suffering inside our company with great glee. And I mean that. Boy, this is going to cause a lot of pain and suffering. And I mean that in a happy way, because you want to refine the character of your company. You want greatness out of them. And greatness is not intelligence. Greatness comes from character, and character is informed out of smart people. It's formed out of people who suffered. And so that's it. And so if I could wish upon you, I don't know how to do it. For all of you Stanford students, I wish upon you ample doses of pain and suffering.
16,000 GPUs is what it took to build GPT-4, which is the largest one that anybody's using today. That's $1 billion.
Okay.
Yep. And that's a check. I mean, it's not even a very big check. Yep. Don't be afraid. Don't let anybody talk you out of building a company. Build your dreams.
Well, we started this company called for accelerated computing, and the question is, what is it for? What's the killer app? And that came our first great decision. And this is what Sequoia funded. The first great decision was the first killer app was going to be 3D graphics. And the technology was going to be 3D graphics. And the application was going to be video games. At the time, 3D graphics was impossible to make cheap. It was $1 million image generators from Silicon Graphics. And so it was $1 million, and it's hard to make cheap. And the video game market was $0 billion. So you have this incredible technology that's hard to commoditize and commercialize. And then you have this market that doesn't exist. That intersection was the founding of our company. And I still remember when Don, at the end of my presentation, Don was still kind of, he said, one of the things he said to me, which made a lot of sense back then, it makes a lot of sense today. He says, startups don't invest in startups, or startups don't partner with startups. And his point is that in order for NVIDIA to succeed, we needed another startup to succeed. And that other startup was Electronic Arts. And then on the way out, he reminded me that Electronic Arts' CTO is 14 years old and had to be driven to work by his mom. And he just wanted to remind me that that's who I'm relying on. And then after that, he said, if you lose my money, I'll kill you. And that was kind of my memories of that first meeting. But nonetheless, we created something. We went on the next several years to go create the market, to create the gaming market for PCs. And it took a long time to do so. We're still doing it today. We realized that not only do you have to create the technology and invent a new way of doing computer graphics so that what was $1 million is now, $300, $400, $500 that fits in a computer. And you have to go create this new market. So we had to create technology, create markets. the idea that a company would create technology, create markets, defines NVIDIA today. Almost everything we do, we create technology, we create markets. That's the reason why people say we have a, people call it a stack, an ecosystem, words like that. But that's basically it. At the core, for 30 years, what NVIDIA realized we had to do is, in order to create the conditions by which somebody could buy our products, we had to go invent this new market. And it's the reason why we were early in autonomous driving. It was the reason why we're early in deep learning. It was the reason why we're early in just about all these things, including computational drug design and discovery. All these different areas, we're trying to create the market while we're creating the technology.
What are some structural things that someone who's building a business can do to sort of stay ahead? And you can just keep your pedal to the metal and say, we're going to outwork them and we're going to be smarter. And like that works to some extent, but those are tactics. What strategically can you do to sort of make sure that you can maintain that lead?
Oftentimes, if you created the market, you ended up having, what people describe as moats. Because if you build your product right and it's enabled an entire ecosystem around you to help serve that end market, you've essentially created a platform. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it's a product-based platform, sometimes it's a service-based platform, sometimes it's a technology-based platform. But if you were early there and you were mindful about helping the ecosystem succeed with you, you ended up having this network of networks and all these developers and all these customers who are built around you.
Yeah.
And that network is essentially your moat. And so, I don't love thinking about it in the context of a moat. And the reason for that is because you're now focused on building stuff around your castle. I tend to like thinking about things in the context of building a network. And that network is about enabling other people to enjoy the success of the final market, that you're not the only company that enjoys it, but you're enjoying it with a whole bunch of other people.
I think that we're fortunate because of some core beliefs a long time ago, and sticking with those core beliefs and building upon them. We found ourselves today being one of the many most important and consequential technology companies in the world, and potentially ever. And so we take that responsibility very seriously. We work hard to make sure that the capabilities that we've created are available to large companies as well as individual researchers and developers across every field of science, no matter profitable or not, big or small, famous or otherwise. And it's because of this understanding of the consequential work that we're doing and the potential impact it has on so many people that we want to make this capability as pervasively as possible. And I do think that when we look back in a few years, and I do hope that what the next generation realized is well, first of all, they're going to know us because of all the gaming technology we create. I do think that we'll look back and the whole field of digital biology and life sciences has been transformed. Our whole understanding of material sciences has completely been revolutionized. That robots are helping us do dangerous and mundane things all over the place. That if we wanted to drive, we can drive, but otherwise, take a nap or enjoy your car like it's a home theater of yours. Read from work to home, and at that point, you're hoping that you live far away, and so you could be in a car for longer. And and you look back and you realize that there's this company almost at the epicenter of all of that, and happens to be the company that you grew up playing games with. And I hope that to be what the next generation learned. We imagined that there would be this market called video games, and this market would be the largest entertainment industry in the world. At the time, it was zero. And 3D graphics, we postulated would be used for telling the stories of almost any sport, any game. And so in virtual worlds, you could have any game, any sport. And as a result, everybody would be a gamer. And so Don Valentine asked me, so how big is this market going to be? And I said, well, every human will be a gamer someday. Every human will be a gamer someday. Also the wrong answer, quite frankly, for starting a company. So these are horrible habits. These are horrible skills. I'm not advocating them for you. But nonetheless, it turned out to have been true. Video games turned out to have been the largest entertainment industry in the world. 3D graphics took off. And we found the first killer app for accelerated computing, which bought us the time to use accelerated computing to solve a whole bunch of other problems, which eventually led to artificial intelligence.
What is something that you believe today that 40-year-old Jensen would have pushed back on and said, no, I disagree?
There's plenty of time. Yeah, there's plenty of time. If you prioritize yourself properly and you make sure that you don't let Outlook be the controller of your time, there's plenty of time.
Plenty of time in the day, plenty of time
to do anything,
to achieve things,
to do anything. Just don't do everything. Prioritize your life. Make sacrifices. Don't let Outlook control what you do every day. Notice I was late to our meeting. And the reason for that, by the time I looked up, oh my gosh, Ben and Dave are waiting, it's already.
We got
right?
time.
Yeah, exactly. That's
didn't stop this from being a great chat.
No, but you have to prioritize your time really carefully and don't let Outlook determine that.
Rule number 4 is take action.
Strategy is not words. Strategy is action.
Yeah.
And so if the company has a set of strategies, but the people's actions, their top 5 things are not that, then they're obviously not executing the strategy. And so the strategy, turns out, isn't what I say, is what they...
I always believed that you need to understand the reason why your business work. What is the essence of your business? What makes it work? Now, the foundation of my business, at its core, is semiconductor technology. Here in Silicon Valley, we usually like to refer to semiconductor technology as Moore's Law. Moore's Law is not so much a physical law as it's a law of competition. It is a law of challenging engineers. It's a law almost of setting pace. And Moore's Law approximately gives you twice the performance every year or two. And so understanding the fundamental ingredient of our business improves by a factor of 2 every year, and simultaneously reduces in cost by a factor of 2 every year.
You once told me that you really didn't like firing people and very seldom did it. Can you elaborate on that?
Well, I'd rather improve you than give up on you. When you fire somebody, you're kind of saying, well, a lot of people say, well, it wasn't your fault, or I made the wrong choice, or there are very few jobs. Look, I used to clean bathrooms, and now I'm the CEO of a company. I think you can learn it. I'm pretty certain you can learn this. And there are a lot of things in life that I believe you can learn, and you just have to be given the opportunity to learn it. I had the benefit of watching a lot of smart people do a lot of things. I'm surrounded by 60 people. They're doing smart things all the time, and they probably don't realize it, but I'm learning constantly from every single one of them. And so I don't like giving up on people because I think they could improve. And so it's kind of tongue in cheek, but people know that I'd rather torture them into greatness.